Hey friends, it is Soraya Goddard here. It is so good to be back on this podcast. Although, if you are a subscriber already and have listened to episodes in the past, you will see that this is titled something different than it has been before. So, I'm going to be here to explain all of that. I am relaunching this podcast, and I want to give you a look in this episode, just a little quick look into why I took a big old break, why I'm relaunching, what's changing, what's staying the same, and a little bit about me. So if you are new around here and you've never heard my story, you know who I am and why I am talking to you right now. So I am Soraya Goddard. I currently live in San Antonio, Texas, with my husband Mike and our dog Olive. We moved here in the middle of the pandemic in June of 2020. It was pure chaos. And this is going to be our home for the foreseeable future. I'm originally from California, but we spent the last 7 years in the Washington, D.C. area. I've lived all over because I have been in the Army for 22 years. I'm a colonel in the United States Army. Shout out to all my fellow military people listening and all my military families because I know you're out there. But the good news is I am retiring in early 2023 to work on my business full time. Woo! I'm so excited. Okay, so that's the very short version. Let me tell you a little bit about how I got here, why I am talking to you about business and social media, because that is a long way away from being in the Army. I've never done anything social media related for the Army officially. Like, how the heck does this girl think that she is qualified to take 22 years of Army experience and turn that into a podcast about social media? Well, I will tell you how I got here. So a couple years ago, actually more than a couple years ago, about 5-6 years ago, I was super burned out. And newsflash, kind of still am from my job. I hope that my coworkers aren't listening, but if you are, sorry, not so sorry. Super burned out. And that's not because I don't love the Army. That's not because I was ready to move to a new career or anything like that. It was just that I had a massive imbalance of time that I was putting into work versus personal time and rest and my ability to recharge. And you can sustain that for a while. You know, in any profession, in anything you do, you can push yourself hard for a while, but at some point you kind of have to regroup and get that back into whatever balance will give you enough recharge to keep you going forward. I was not able to do that. I spent the first 10 years of my career deploying a ton, including to places like Iraq and Afghanistan, lots of training. I was basically always in the field, always on to some sort of Army adventure, which I loved. And I was young and I was full of energy, but there kind of came a point where I didn't have enough, I didn't have as much energy, and I had been doing it for 10, 15 years. I think by that point, by the time I really, really felt the burnout, I was 16 years in. 16 years of really hard work. So anyways, I love the Army, will always love it, but I had a lot of frustrations, much like many of the frustrations that anybody in any profession or any career or job has. Not enough time with my family. I had gone through a divorce and was single and didn't have time to date. I was just, didn't have time to do anything. Have to ask for time off to go on vacation, always at the whim of other people, working from sunup to sundown and not really seeing the light of day most days. And then on the weekends, just absolutely trying to make up for it and never really getting any rest time, not enough time with friends, et cetera, et cetera. I know so many of you can relate. So during this time, I found a product that I love. Newsflash, it was a network marketing product, but I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that I read a blog and some lady recommended a product that would help with energy and stress and hormones. And so I signed up and I bought a kit and loved the product and was happily on a monthly auto ship for a long time before she reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this as a business?" And I was like, why? Why would I ever do this as a business? I have a job, I have a career. In my mind, I had no earthly clue what kind of money, what kind of freedom, what kind of benefits, community, incentives that you could earn in network marketing. I didn't even know what network marketing was. But the person that I enrolled with, she basically told me a story and she said, hey, I get it. Like, you have a salary, it's comfortable, et cetera, et cetera. She said, but let me tell you a little story. I was able to grow my network marketing business to the point where I quit my job and I am now able to stay home with my young daughter and be a full-time stay-at-home parent. And I work this from home. And what's funny is that even though she told me that story and I wasn't a parent, and I wasn't in the same position as her, I immediately saw how that story could apply to me. That with a couple years of consistent hard work on the side of what I was already doing in the Army, that I could build an exit plan. And it was one of those things where it was like, the light bulb was like, ping, it goes on in this little cartoon thing above my head. And I saw the vision. And that was it. That was it. That's all it took. Now, not everyone that you talk to is going to see that kind of a vision, and not everyone that you talk to is going to want to grow a business to the point where it will replace their salary. However, your story is important, and it's important to share that, and I'll talk about that in future episodes. But she told me the story, I saw the vision, and I was like, I'm all in. What do I do? Now, keep in mind, had never been pitched for any network marketing in the past, didn't really know anyone in network marketing, had never been to a Tupperware party. Like, I didn't know anything about what I was getting into. I just said, hey, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, I'm really good at doing stuff. And so she said, well, you talk to your friends and you enroll them and this and this and that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm in the Army. I move a lot. I don't have a whole lot of close friends. And I can't really talk about this kind of stuff at work because that's really, really against the rules. So I'll talk to the people at my gym about it. So I told the few friends that I had made in Washington, D.C. about these really cool things and basically enrolled all of my friends at the gym. And then I was like, okay, well, now what? Like, what do I do from here? What's next? And my enroller said, well, you keep doing it. And I'm like, well, but I don't, that's it. I don't have any more friends. I'm done. And she was in a position where she had a blog and an email list and a social media audience that was actually quite large, which is why I was following her in the first place. And so she was like, well, I have all this stuff, so you basically now need to build an audience online. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, let alone know how to do that, but I'm going to figure it out because I'm smart. And so I went crazy trying to figure out how to blog, how to grow Instagram. And this is, a while back when the influencer thing on Instagram was just starting. So I figured it out, and I figured it out the hard way. And I hired a coach, and straight up out of desperation, I started to try to build an audience online because I didn't have in-person friends. So again, I found a coach, signed up for an amazing coaching program and a mastermind. I learned how to market myself. I learned what branding is, personal branding. I failed a lot. I was nervous a lot. I was terrified a lot. I did a lot of really dumb videos that nobody watched. But little by little, I grew an audience. I grew an email list. I grew a business. And things started to work out. So fast forward, we're going to do the time warp thing. I am in an amazing network marketing company today. But because I was able to figure out how to build my business online on social media, people started to come to me and ask me for social media advice. And so, it's really hard to calculate who comes from what and how much money I've made from social media, but I've definitely made well over six figures just from people that I've met online, leads and business that I've generated online, mostly from Instagram, but a little bit from Facebook as well. And there you go. Here I am. So a couple things that has led me to. Number one, I am really passionate about the average person who works a full-time job and has lots of responsibility and stress and craziness going on in their lives. I'm really passionate about showing that type of person that you don't have to be an influencer and you don't have to sacrifice your entire life to build a successful online business. And you can define success as whatever you would like. You can define success monetarily. You can define success as building community. You can define success as whatever you would like. I'm not defining it for you, but I want to help you get to your idea of success, whatever that may be. For most people in network marketing, that's $300 to $500 a month worth of income, because that's life-changing for most Americans. And I would argue probably most people around the globe. $300 to $500 extra a month is the difference between paying a bill or not, or maybe going out to dinner or not, or being able to afford a house cleaner or a babysitter or not, or maybe being able to afford diapers or not. These are massive things in most people's lives. And so that is something that I will never stop loving, and I will never stop working towards, is teaching people how to do this for themselves. So that's kind of how I got here and what my goal is. If you've noticed, the name of this podcast has changed to Monetize Your Social. Monetize Your Social. And that can mean a lot of things, and we'll go through all the ways that you can monetize your social media strategies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But really, I had this podcast for a couple years. It's wildly successful. Not that I'm like on any iTunes charts or anything like that, but man, do I have an engaged bunch of listeners. So shout out to you. Thank you for being here. I'm so appreciative that you are spending some of your precious time to just listen to me talk. But ultimately, so growing my business, et cetera, and then 2020 hits. And you guys know what happens in 2020. It's absolutely insanity. I was actually I was the military equivalent of a CEO of an Army health clinic, actually 2 Army health clinics in Washington, D.C. And when COVID hit, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know how to respond. We had to figure all that out. Absolute chaos and craziness. And just the demands of that really took me away from some of the things that I was being consistent with. I was going through some personal struggles, and I'm pretty open about this in my own personal brand. Fertility struggles. We had a miscarriage during that time. I was not only doing all of the Army stuff and the COVID stuff, I was preparing to move across country, move from DC to Texas, selling 2 houses, which is insane in and of itself. I was continuing to build my network marketing business and also coaching a coaching program and doing private one-on-one coaching. So to say there was a lot going on is an understatement, but again, most all of us have a lot going on. So I didn't want to, but I took a pause on the podcast. So, crazy things in life, and like a pandemic and moving and stress and all of that always causes you to really reevaluate where you are and whether or not you're happy and how you're spending your time. I'm sure many of us have had those thoughts normally, let alone in the last 2 years. And it really caused me to think about how I was running my business, and was I doing the things that I really, really wanted to be doing. The very short version is I made some changes in my business, and I'm thrilled about those changes. Sometimes, just as an aside, it's really scary to make changes in your life, let alone changes that affect money in your business. I ended up actually, I really felt like my message was off. I really felt like I was going through the motions, but I wasn't loving what I was doing. I was loving coaching, and I love the people I was coaching. I was loving my team, but something wasn't right, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. So long story short, I took a break. So we moved to Texas, kept building my team, but really paused most everything else except for my coaching programs. We bought a house, remodeled it, and started a new job here in Texas with the Army. And ultimately, I ended up changing network marketing companies towards the very end of 2021. I switched, and I couldn't be happier. This is not about any specific company necessarily, but I will be doing a future episode on my thoughts on changing network marketing companies, what caused me to change, and some tips about that whole topic. So more to follow on that. But once I settled back down and really got into a stable place where I felt like I had the energy to tackle some of these larger marketing projects again, I really dove into my own personal brand. And I will talk a ton about personal brands here on this podcast, because it is something that I think a lot of people misunderstand, and a lot of people hear the phrase but don't really know what it means. One of the components of your personal brand that you need to convey to your audience is what makes you different. So I had to ask myself that question. What makes me different? Like, why of all the reps in my company should people enroll with me? Why, of all the people that are on Instagram, should someone follow me? What can they get from me that they can't get somewhere else? Again, what makes me different? What is a skill that I have, or a take, or a perspective, or a topic that I'm talking about that makes me stand out from the crowd? What do I want to be known for? How do I package my talents, my gifts, my experience, my personality, my thoughts, my quirkiness, my sarcasm, all of that into a seamless brand? So I've been working on that for the last couple months, really making a conscious effort. For those of you who have been in business a while, you know that you go through different iterations. When you're first starting out, you're just trying to make it. You're just trying to put some content out. You don't really care, nor should you care. You're just trying to get stuff out and get over the initial shock and fear and hurdles of figuring out how to do the actions. Then you get to a point where you want to refine that. And that was really what this whole thing was about, is me just refining my brand. So I've been going through this rebrand, tweaking the podcast, creating a new blog. Yes, I still love blogging. So I scrapped my old blog, started over from scratch. I still think blogs are valuable. I'll have to do an episode on that in the future as well. But I have redone everything. Again, I shifted network marketing companies. But here's the funny thing. I'm still the same. My brand is still me. And so all of that was actually very, very easy to do. I will teach you in this podcast how to think about yourself as a brand, what goes into a brand, the things that you need to be focused on to make sure that you stand out from the crowd and that you're attracting the people that you want to attract, because that's really the goal. We all know that social media is the future of marketing. Like, we're already there. We've already seen massive shifts in how we buy. People are spending more and more money online and not in stores. It's changed global commerce in every way. We know that social media is how we become aware of brands. It's how we get our message out. It has changed life in the last 10 years in a very dramatic way. And so considering all that, my goal here in this newly relaunched and renamed podcast is twofold. First, I am not ashamed to say that I use this podcast to connect with new people. So if you're new here, I am so excited to bring you into my world and have a conversation with you, and let's connect, because that is the most important thing about marketing. And so I'm building my business through making those connections. But for those people that are super happy with their current offerings, I'm also a coach. So I do coaching and I help people with personal branding, and I am revamping all my course offerings. My goal is to have the best program to help you build your personal brand. So many people, including myself, have been frustrated because lots of courses on how to build your niche or how to identify your niche really ignore the idea that so many of us are personal brands. They want us to focus on one thing. But what if you have more than one thing going on in your life? How do you deal with that? That's the problem that most people come to me with, and that's what my next course will be about. So I'm really excited. But ultimately, the second reason why I'm here on social media is on this podcast talking to you is because there's a lot of really terrible social media advice out there. Like, I'm just going to say that, and I'm going to die on that hill. There is so much bad social media advice out there, particularly on Instagram. It makes me want to vomit. I hate it. I can't stand it. It fires me up. And so I want this podcast, as it has been in the past, to be a source of absolutely no BS advice and give you advice that is a little bit different from the rest. So I fully believe, this is important, I fully believe that you are incredible. You have the ability to monetize your social media to whatever level you would like to and make the money that you're looking for, create the freedom, the lifestyle, the options that you are looking for. You are the key to that. A lot of the social media advice that's on there these days is just blanket advice coming from one person's perspective on what worked for that individual person, but it's not applicable to so many of us. And so, if you get on Instagram and you're confused by a lot of the advice that you've seen, or you get on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you get your advice from, TikTok, I don't know, and you apply it and it's not working for you, I want to overcome that hurdle and let you have the skills, share with you the skills to figure out why it's not working for you, and to really craft a set of legit social media advice, craft a encyclopedia of advice on this podcast, if you will, that deals with the fact that you are a personal brand if you are showing up on social media and selling stuff. Like you just are. If you're showing your face on social media, then you in essence have a personal brand. Whether you know it or not, you do. And I want to give you the tools that are crafted for you and for people that have personal brands. So that leads me to monetize your social. Now, I chose that as the title for this podcast. There's a lot that's going to go into that, but I want you to be able to create the money that you're looking for. Money is a topic that not everyone's comfortable with. I love talking about money, and I want to talk about that more on this podcast than I have in the past, because money is a tool, and money is a tool to change your life and to change the lives of others. Money is not inherently good or bad. Money is just a tool, and you can use it how you want. I really believe that money and an abundance mindset and you being your true self, like knowing who you are and sharing that with the world unapologetically, all those three things combined to me are the key to unlocking the business success that you're looking for. Maybe it's starting a successful business. Maybe it's getting to the next level of business. I don't know where you personally are, but those things, if any one of those is off, having an abundance mindset, understanding that money is a tool, and being your true self online, if any of those is a little bit off, then you're not going to see the success that you're looking for, more than likely. So many people try to get online and copy other people because they don't know what they're doing, and it never really works out. Instead, I want to show you that you have messages inside of you. You have things that you're passionate about, and by sharing those, you're going to attract the people that are looking for you. How does that sound? So I hope you'll stick around. Super glad to be relaunching this podcast. I'm going to have a mix of solo episodes like I have in the past, and some more episodes with friends. I think I only did 2 episodes with guests on it in the past in like more than 100 podcasts. I'll be doing a few more than that. I don't know exactly how many, but it'll definitely be more than before. I'm going to bring all my friends on, all my awesome, successful, badass friends, and we're going to have conversations that nobody else is having online. So many podcasts, so many videos, so much Instagram and TikTok content is just surface level nonsense. We're going to be talking about all the topics that you really want to know about, including some juicy stuff. So stick around. I'll be doing some trainings, but mostly it'll be this kind of informal, fun style that I hope you enjoy. By the way, last thing, if you are not on my email list, you need to get on it because I have a new cheat sheet for you. Now, the number one thing that people ask me about is how do I get my message out in my captions, whether they be Instagram captions, Facebook captions, whatever. I created a caption cheat sheet. Do you remember Mad Libs where you had to identify words and then like fill in the blanks? It's kind of like that, but for your business. So I had a lot of fun creating it. I hope that you download it from my website, which is just at my name, sarayagoddard.com. There's a link in the notes on whatever podcasting service you're listening to today. Click on over, download that cheat sheet, and give me your feedback. Let me know what you like about it, if you used it, if it was helpful. These are not just silly story captions. These are captions that I designed to help you get at a solid, cohesive, and effective personal brand. And what that is a brand that makes people fall in love with you and go, oh my God, she's talking to me. She's talking to me. She is like me. I want what she has. So anyways, go get that caption cheat sheet. Check it out. It is at sarayagoddard.com. Again, go to the notes and there's all the links that you will need. If you found this helpful, I would love it if you shared this. You can screenshot this and share it to your Instagram stories and tag me in it and just drop me a note. All right. I will talk to you soon on the next episode. Bye.